You know the most important rule for startup survival? Don't spend too much on acquisition. You know what doesn't care about that rule? The market. Depending on the industry, acquisition costs from a startup can range from as little as 10 euros to more than 1,000 euros per customer. And that makes you think, if the costs for acquisition are that high, why are startups still alive? Well, it turns out startups found a way to make user acquisition possible without breaking the bank. Told the market that they don't need to obey their standards. And this is all possible thanks to product managers. Before I get into how product managers make sustainable acquisition possible, I need to introduce how this problem happens to begin with. It all starts from an idea. Well, it starts from a founder with a blue ocean idea. For those unfamiliar with the term, blue ocean is a new uncontested market where competition is irrelevant. It is the polar opposite of a red ocean, an existing market space crowded with competitors fighting over market share like sharks in a frenzy. The founder takes the idea to another potential co-founder. They convince friends, family, and fools to drop them some pennies to validate their idea. They are successful and decide to collect a seed round to validate their MVP on the market and hire you as their first product manager. They prove to be successful in the product market fit and manage to raise VC funds to continue with their venture. They start light, being conservative with their marketing budgets. Noticing their spending discomfort, VC calls the founders. Hey, you've got a large chunk of money burning a hole in your pocket. Paint the city in your brand colors. Streets get layered in advertising and users start coming in. Founder starts noticing the positive momentum. Best performing channel seems to be search engine advertising. The numbers are pretty sweet. Acquisition costs feel like a joke at this point. Eventually, traction gets the attention from the media. It's all over the main pages of startup sections and magazines. The same morning, another seasoned founder gets a message. Hey, look at this. This is something we could easily do. Another startup gets formed, immediately securing VC money. This creates a butterfly effect and more founders get interested. The former blue ocean now becomes a crowded pond. One morning, the original founder checks the dashboards. What's going on? Conversions are down. They message the CMO. Did you see this? What's happening? Hey, I did. Let me get back to you. Marketing meeting is organized. Why are conversions down? We had a campaign cap of 20K this week, and we reached that after only 2 days. The rest of the weeks, we didn't have any ads running. What? After 2 days? That's insane. What are we even bidding at? News reaches back to the founder. With so many competitors, acquisitions have become expensive. VCs call the founder again. With all these new players, do you have a plan for growing sustainably? It's all about being the last one standing now. Growth and sustainability together? It sounds like a paradox. First, spend money, and then make sure you have enough money to make it till the end. However, this isn't just the founder's problem. You'll realize pretty soon, it's yours too as a product manager. The founder then gets back to you. Costs are running too high now. Is there something we can do to lower them? But how are you supposed to know? You're not a marketer, just a product manager, right? Well, there are some things you can do, but don't worry, I've got you. In order to do that, we need to rewind a little bit. Here, this is where you're going to jump in. The moment you're hired as a product manager, you'll kick off a very powerful channel that will support your sustainability later on. This is SEO, search engine optimization. SEO will be your secret weapon for when things get expensive. At least when it comes to search. which will most probably be your strongest acquisition channel. At this point, you might be wondering, why is a product manager telling me about this marketing challenge? Let me share why I am uniquely positioned to help you with this. Apart from my experience as a product manager, I rounded my experience working in marketing as well, doing both management and execution. In 2018, I started learning about SEO. I was able to rank #1 for the most important keywords for some of the companies I work for. In other cases, I was able to help companies grow from being nothing to being something, both in terms of content and technically. But isn't SEO dead? Well, according to influencers, sure, SEO is dead. Everything is dead nowadays. When starting out as a startup, you're heavily going to rely on search engine advertisement. However, once you're known as a brand, you should have an established organic presence for users to be able to find you without spending money on search ads. And that's where you'll step in. You'll set up the foundation for SEO. But what can I do to start with SEO as a product manager? You'll start by setting up the technical foundation. Before doing anything, you'll want to connect your analytics tools, specific tools that are meant for organic search. These are Google Search Console and big Webmaster tools. You go into Google Search Console, add a property, verify the ownership. Most probably you'll need some DNS records or a CNAME record. In the case of big Webmaster tools, it is enough to have analytics to be able to verify your property. But if you're already gonna ask your engineering team to create the records, maybe you can ask to create them for both. Once you're able to verify your ownership, send an invite to your content marketing team. You want them to be able to have access. Also, connect Google Search Console to Google Analytics. It is possible that none of your pages were indexed, hence you're not seeing anything on the Google Search Console. But wait a bit, we are not there yet. There is one interesting part about Bing Webmaster tools, and it's that you can do a little bit of keyword research there, which is something that you normally have to pay for, unless you're using Google Ads Campaign Planner or something like that. But don't tell anyone I told you this, because there are expensive tools out there that people are hoping to sell you for this purpose. Before creating pages, make sure you have a plan for your URL structure. It should be aligned with the way that you would set up your breadcrumbs. Your content should follow a hierarchical structure. You should be able to define where are pages standing in relation to each other. For this particular case, talk with marketing to decide how it is that you're going to be using paths. Set one particular path for performance landing pages. That is something that you will use for performance landing pages alone. Those will not be indexed. We'll come into this topic a little bit later. This is only a light differentiation, but performance landing pages are not used for user nurturing through content. However, content landing pages can be used to drive conversion. So content landing pages can be used for both things, but performance landing pages are only restricted to driving a conversion. Make sure you train your marketing departments about how to write slugs. They shouldn't incorporate any special characters, signs. Also, make sure that they don't write typos in there. There are some engineers that get quite upset about this. And they are right. Your website is the presentation card of your business to the outside. And you have a typo out there. I don't know if you remember, but in the past, if a website was trying to do some kind of spoofing, they were showing almost the same website just with change of one letter, changing an I for an L. There was always one thing related to poor writing in that URL. And even though a slug is different than the main domain, it still creates a little bit of the same feeling subconsciously. Hey Marlena, but I have an app, so what does this mean? I cannot use SEO to lower acquisition costs? Well, of course you can. You just need to set up a website. Imagine you just ran an ad and you tell a user about your brand. Do you think their first instinct is going to be to go to the App Store or the Google Play Store? Most probably not. They're gonna Google. They're gonna search for your brand. And in those moments, what would you prefer them to find? A forum where some angry user is complaining about your service or your product because they didn't get a discount at a specific moment? Or you want them to find a landing page with your content where you're explaining what the product is about, where you're explaining to them how people are happy with it, that you're using testimonials. What is it that you want them to find? Second, right? Then make sure you have a website. And ideally, you'll use that website for organic growth as well. Apart from using it to organic growth, you want to onboard the users into the app as soon as possible. So don't forget this. When you start creating pages on that website to drive organic growth, you want to make sure there is a relationship between those pages. And how do you use that relationship to your advantage? You start doing internal linking. If there is one topic that you're covering within one page and you are introducing or describing a topic that is then fully explained in another page, use an internal link for that. Teach your marketing team how to do internal linking. Search engines can't prioritize pages that aren't easily accessible. Pages that require more than 2 clicks to be reached are not going to be well perceived. Same thing happens with orphan pages. If you have a page that is not linked anywhere on your website, why should search engines care about them? It sounds like someone pulling a trick where they are trying to create a page to get new traffic about something that is completely unrelated to their website. That's why it's not linked anywhere on their website. That is what search engines perceive when you have something like this. You don't really want users to find it because it's not relevant to what it is that you're offering. So make sure there are no orphan pages. They're not supposed to be there, then redirect them and then delete them. Internal linking will be beneficial for your user, but it will also be positive for search engine optimization, unless the pages are not indexed. So this takes me to the next point: set indexing rules. Decide either with your engineering team or with your marketing team what pages you're gonna use for which purposes. Which paths are gonna be indexed and which paths are not. If you have a specific URL where you have your cart, maybe don't index that page. You don't want a user to land on a page where there is an empty cart. What for? However, you do want them to be able to find a listing page where you're showing all the different products that you're offering. Going back again to things maybe you shouldn't be indexing. Performance landing pages are definitely a no-go. You shouldn't be indexing performance landing pages. They don't include content. They're trying to drive conversion, not engage a user into reading your content. Another thing, imagine you have some specific pages for customers, not users. You want them to be able to reach those only from a specific section of your website, from their private login page, or from a link that they receive within the CRM. Those pages shouldn't be findable by search engines. Make sure you define with your marketing teams what are the paths that are not going to be indexed. Marketing teams can get super creative and start creating pages everywhere because they like a template from that particular path and they just duplicate it and then create content which is indexable even though it's meant for performance marketing. Make sure you communicate this clearly. Create documentation so when a new person arrives, they don't make this mistake. With your URL structure and an indexing plan, you can now create your sitemap. A sitemap will be a way to tell search engines this is what you should be looking at. Now, the sitemap should only include index pages. Talk to your engineering team so you have an automated way to add every single new index page into your sitemap. If a page changes from index to not indexed, make sure those are automatically removed. Otherwise, you're gonna have to be updating the sitemap regularly, and this can be a pain. With your sitemap ready, a URL that has an XML extension or something like this, you can go on and submit it into Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster tools. Make sure all the pages in your sitemap are successful responses, meaning 200 responses. Don't submit broken links. And you're probably thinking, why would I do that? Well, you'd be surprised how many times I've been asked to submit a sitemap which included broken links. Last year for a client, I wrote a script to be able to figure out whether the things in the sitemap included successful response. And if you're interested in this, write a comment and maybe I'll make the effort and write the script again. You need to make sure that all of your pages contain the elements that you need to have a page that is SEO friendly. That means including meta tags, title tag, meta description. Those will be forming your SERP, search engine result page. This is going to be the listing that you see on Google. Whenever you Google something, the organic ones. Title tag is the title of that page. Meta description is the description of that page. Make sure you instruct your marketing team to write those in a way that it fits the limit of characters and that it looks good to be seen to the outside. Don't include the same meta description for everything.
Yeah, they gave me the same thing as last year.
Include one specific meta description for one specific page. Another thing you should consider, HTML structure.
Shaka's never been in a structure like this before.
Only one H1 tag per page. Then you can use an H2, H3, H4. Then you can go back to H2, H3. No jumping from H1 to H5 to H6. And I know you're probably doing it because of style reasons. So here, UX designers pay attention to this.
You must pay attention, Ilsa.
You shouldn't create your style guides with reference to the heading type. Create the style guide with the intention of styling, not with the intention of how should a particular heading look like. Because what this turns into is content managers creating content where they're creating very crazy HTML structures just because it looks pretty. So UX designers separate the idea of the heading from a specific style. Create styles, give them a name, and then you, the product manager, should go to engineering and ask them to provide content marketers to select the option of which style they want to apply. Just like you have one H1 per page, you should tackle one keyword per page. You can have sub-keywords, but only have one main keyword, not more than that. What happens if you create content for one main keyword on one page, then also create content on another page? You will be then penalized for duplicated content, because most probably the content that you're responding in one page and another in order to both be ranking is very similar. If you've already made this mistake, set up a canonical. Say which one is the most important page, the one that users should pay attention to, and use the one with the strongest amount of organic traffic. Eventually, you should consider reorganizing all these pages into the main page. Gather all the content, the things that are not in the main page, reorganize it. Once you start getting all the SEO value in the main page, you can start deprecating the old pages. If you ever delete a page, make sure all your internal links are removed as well. There is a tool where you can check this. Write me a comment if you're interested in knowing what this tool is. It's actually a free tool. If you're using a single page application, make sure your content is rendered server-side. Otherwise, it is possible that your JavaScript will not load fast enough for Google to take the snapshot before it shows that content. Make sure you're discussing this with your engineering team. You'll be able to see this once the marketing team sets up the SEO tool for tracking and they see that there is an error such as no headings detected in the content. That is most probably the reason. Make sure all the roads lead to Rome. No broken links here, please. If there is a link out there which was at some point crawled, indexed, identified, linked from a blog, has a backlink, make sure they are still taking users to your page.
If nobody ever tells you it's broken, and it is broken, how will you know it's broken?
No 404, please. 404 is SEO poison. If you have some affiliate link to a performance landing page, then maybe talk to the person who put that affiliate link and tell them where it should be taking them to. It is in their best interest, otherwise they won't be making any money. If at some point anyone removes a page, even if it's marketing, tell them they should have a plan before they remove it. Make the redirect before you remove that page. With Schema, you're basically telling search engines, my content is about this. My content are blog posts. My website is about a company. The company is the same company that has the socials. The things that are listed in here are this particular type of product. Whatever it is that you want to do, this is done through Schema markup. Again, if you're interested, write a comment and I'll share the link. It is also important to make sure that the content you have is lean. Your website's loading time should be within the ranges. If it's not, it penalizes the user experience. And if the user experience is not good, user response, this tells search engines that your website is not good. There is a test for this. You can ask your developers, or if you're interested, just write a comment and I'll share the link. You don't want to worsen the mobile experience by using assets that are too heavy. Discuss with your engineering team whether you can use a content delivery network or something equivalent. Clean up the chunks of code that are unused and remove it from your website.
Take the garbage out on Tuesday nights.
Beware of your crawls. Search engines assign a limited crawling budget to websites. Make sure you're making the right decisions in terms of what should be crawled and when. If you're a small website, you're not gonna care much about it. If you're aiming at becoming a larger website with tons of pages, this is something you should be thinking about. Otherwise, you're gonna realize once you're penalized. If you go international, don't cannibalize yourself. Make sure you're telling search engines which content you want to show for which countries, or which content you want to show for which languages. Otherwise, a search engine is not going to be looking whether you're using one language or another. It's just going to be saying, ooh, duplicated content again. And you're going to be penalized. Remember to have a default international version. So maybe keep the English version to show up everywhere. It is important when you do any of these things to have a strategy in mind. Content without a strategy can win battles, but you will not win the war. A strategic SEO approach gives startups the sustainable acquisition pathway they need to survive in an increasingly competitive market. When your competitors are burning cash and ads, your organic presence will be quietly driving organic growth at a fraction of the cost. If you enjoyed this content, give it a thumbs up. And if there is someone you think could learn a little bit about SEO, just share it with them.